comes in. Oh, what a goal it is! Simply sensational on the second ball from Edgar Pacheco.
Hola a todos, muy buenas noches, qué gusto saludar a todos los aficionados que nos siguen en la región de CONCACAF, así como alrededor del mundo. Es un gusto estar aquí con ustedes para este gran evento, el sorteo oficial de la Liga CONCACAF Scotiabank. Soy Alejandro de la Rosa y esta noche me acompaña
Alejandro de la Rosa and Natalia Álvarez on the screen. Devin, how are you? How's everything going? Glad that football's back in the region.
Y bueno, y acompañarte de forma virtual para este sorteo de la Liga Concacaf Scotiabank 2020. Emocionada y ansiosa, por supuesto, de conocer estos enfrentamientos, así como también deben de estar muy emocionados y ansiosos los representantes de los 22 equipos participantes que nos acompañan esta noche, así como las ligas y los miembros de las asociaciones de CONCACAF. Emocionados todos y ansiosos entonces de conocer estos enfrentamientos.
And we're about to find out who's going to play who en route to the title. So we're going to see if Saprissa maintains the title or who's going to be the new champ.
Yeah, it seems like every single year Motagua's right there. Saprissa's got a chance, but it's going to be a fun run-in. Let's get started.
Bienvenidos al sorteo oficial
de la
Liga Concacaf
League
Draw 2020. Es una
It's a
pena que
shame
no
that I
podamos
can't be
estar
with you
todos
tonight,
juntos esta
but
noche.
I'm
Pero es
following
importante
the
que sigamos
necessary
los protocolos
protocols and putting
necesarios
safety first.
y priorizando la salud de todos. Como todos los aficionados,
Like all fans, I will be
estaré
following the
siguiendo el
draw
sorteo
at
en casa con
home
mi familia.
with my family,
Estoy
and
seguro de
I'm
que será
sure it
un
will
gran
be a
espectáculo.
great show.
Es importante
I know that
resaltar
many communities
que
in
muchas
the region
comunidades de la
are
región
facing
se
difficulties at this
enfrentan en
time.
estos momentos a
That is
grandes
why my
dificultades.
thoughts are with them.
Y nuestros pensamientos de todos aquí de la familia CONCACAF están con ellas. Espero que el fútbol
I hope that football and the prospect of exciting competition returning in the future can bring some hope and anticipation for fans as they desperately need it. Given the challenges we face with the schedule, we have made some minor changes to the format of this year's competition. It's not going to affect in any way, shape, or form the spirit of putting football first and the excitement of the fans. This tournament is a prestigious competition which brings clubs with a long history of football. They're going to be participating en route to winning the title. I had the privilege of attending the final last year where Deportiva Saprissa from Costa Rica was crowned for the first time in this tournament after defeating Fútbol Club Motagua in Honduras in a very competitive match. This year's edition, with the best clubs in Central America, the Caribbean, and Canada, promises to be another great championship. So, to all the clubs and their fans, and to our partners, including Scotiabank, we want to thank you very much for your support of the Scotiabank Concacaf League. Without them, it would not be possible. So we want to welcome you to the draw, and we wish everyone luck to all the teams participating. And now I leave you with a video showing all the action and passion that was experienced during the 2019 edition. Thank you.
The CONCACAF League has expanded this year. It's now 22 teams, each round having 2 legs apiece. The top 6 teams will be proceeding to the CONCACAF Champions League. Underway, 2019 CONCACAF League preliminary round. Levetta, another cross lifted, scissored home. Magnificent goal for Alianza.
As the free kick gets delivered, and it's well dealt with. First time there as the effort comes in. Oh, what a goal it is! Simply sensational on the second ball from Edgar Pacheco. An absolute banger.
Whipped in problems, and it's in for Tauro in the opening moments. What a start for the Panamanian club.
Let's spot the quarterfinals on the line. Tauro, the home side, threatening. Opportunity into the middle, the shot, and it's in! Goal for Herediano.
They go up 2-1 on aggregate. The defending champions being pushed to the limit tonight by this Jamaican side that just will not give up. And it's over! The defending champions are defending no more! It's Waterhouse! They're off to the quarterfinals!
Knocked in by Venegas. Just terrific to bring that down out of the air. 2-0 Saprissa.
Free available header here and an early start for Olympia. Matias Garrido gets Olympia off to a flying start.
Well, you mentioned how do you get energized here? That's one way to do it.
Exactly.
Throws again. Trying to get on his right foot, going for goal. What a rocket by the captain. It doubles the lead for Alianza. It's 2-0 to the home side.
An excellent goal from distance. A phenomenal goal by Lopez. Motagua up 2-0, and they're on the verge of qualification to the Champions League.
Another lob ball by Alianza. Headed on. And no, not grabbed in the end. Alianza on the attack. Alianza the finish. We're all equal here at the end of 45. Peñaranda, his fourth of the tournament. In, knocked on and in. There it is. Motagua certainly headed to the final now.
Jalen had it. Benguche, great little turn. Cuts it back. Benguche! And it's 2 for Olympia. And they'll have a mighty fine cushion heading back to Costa Rica next week. Zuniga slips it through. Great idea. Ramirez! It's unbelievable! Saprissa booked their spot in the final.
Muchas gracias, Philippe. Grandes emociones las que vivimos en el 2019.
Thank you, Philippe. And it was great emotions that we saw and we experienced in 2019. It was a great tournament. So what do you think if we continue looking at the explanation of what the tournament is about? Devin will have all that information for you.
La Liga Concacaf Scotiabank 2020 estará compuesta de 5 rondas.
So Devin, to start, we have 5 rounds, 22 clubs.
La competencia iniciará con la
So we're going to have a preliminary round, and that'll start in October. So then in November, we'll have the round of 16, which the winners of the preliminary rounds will already have their respective spots. Of course, it progresses into quarters, semis, and of course the final.
You draw the initial, and then you start to bring it all together. That's where the competition format starts to change a little bit. And I think there's a few things that you want to talk about here that you have to understand that there's the first draw, and you're already going to have the understanding of what's going to be set up for the future. So you'll get a good idea right away at how these matchups are going to play out.
Exactly. The first 2 rounds, one-off matches, and then after in quarterfinals, it'll be home and away. The preliminary round, 12 clubs. That'll be played from October 20th to the 22nd. Then they will be scattered across, of course. The winners I'm talking about will advance to the round of 16, and we'll find out exactly who will end up playing at that point. See right there. They'll fill in those particular spots, and then, as we mentioned before, it'll be a one-off encounter that will be played November 3rd through the 5th. Then, as we mentioned originally too, the original format returns starting in quarterfinals. It'll be home and away. That'll be on December 3rd, 1st through the 3rd, and then the 8th to the 10th, as the original brackets will determine the matchups and who ends up being the return leg host. So the best one, the ones with the odd or the even numbers, will not be the ones. They'll be the odd numbers that will end up hosting those matches. On January 5th through the 7th and the 12th, it'll be the semifinals. The best qualified in each round will end up hosting the return leg of that encounter. And meanwhile, the final will be in 2021 on January 19th or the 21st. So we'll see how that fits in. Same thing on the 26th to the 28th. The final that ends up best qualifier, high seeded, ends up going and playing in the return leg, they'll be the host of that particular match. So we have the explanation of what's gone on. We have everything that's been occurring. So we start to see some of those matchups. It's going to be interesting to see, especially when you get to quarterfinals and the demands that they're going to be playing. How key will fitness be in certain aspects? Although we've seen in other tournaments worldwide that fitness hasn't been necessarily an issue, but it will be interesting to see with the rigors of this tournament how things will play out.
Could be some slow starts for sure, but I think there's 2 points you want to highlight here, Juan. And first and foremost, that they're still going to continue to qualify 6 teams. So it's the champion, which would end up being the runner-up as well. So there's 2. You've also got your losing semifinalists, and then the highest 2 in the quarterfinals. So you get 6 overall. They will all make their way to the Scotiabank Concacaf Champions League. The other is the fact that, the away dates, it's now played in a single match. Now that's going to go in the preliminary round as well as the round of 16s. You talked about that, the emotion, the fans. You don't have the luxury of going back and forth now. You understand that once you get to the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals, it's going to return to its initial format.
Exactly. So let's now check out the 22 teams that will be taking part in this tournament. Verdes FC, that will be the first time they participate in this tournament. They participated before in the CONCACAF Champions League, but in the CONCACAF League, they're one of the debutants, one of many debutants in this tournament, I may add.
Yeah, Belmopan was the team that seemed to be coming out of Belize recently, but, a good opportunity. Again, once you jump to the international level, it's a whole nother game. You'll see teams start to tweak themselves a little bit. They'll change, the style of play, maybe sit back a little bit more, maybe open things up, all just depends. And then you start to move yourself forward of who they're going to face. From Canada, you'll get a representative from the last Canadian Premier League champion, that's Forge FC, back-to-back appearances for Forge FC. Yeah, good for them. They've done really well up north.
Meanwhile, Costa Rica will have their 3 big teams. Saprissa, who won it last year, the defending champs. The prior champ in 2018, which was Herediano. And, of course, Liga Deportiva Alajuelense will also be in the mix as well. So it'll be interesting to look at how these teams you see on Honduras with Olimpia, Maratón, and Motagua, another one with 3 teams, with the 3 big teams. Panama, Tauro, San Francisco, and Independiente, they have not been... They're not unfamiliar to international tournaments, so we've been able to see that. El Salvador también also in Spanish, with Municipal Limeño making their debut. Municipal also making their debut, which is kind of interesting as well. Nicaragua with Real Estelí and Managua FC, and as we mentioned, Verdes, but also the Caribbean representatives, we've seen them as well.
Yeah, I've seen a few in the past, and the big names that jump off the map, Waterhouse FC is definitely one of them. Use Portmore through their name in there, but of course Waterhouse steps up again.
Of course.
Arcaí, that's a debutant from Haiti. They're going to throw their name into the mix. And Cibao FC from the Dominican Republic, who we've seen in the past. It's a pretty high powerhouse coming out of that country. 3 teams that maybe some people at home don't necessarily know as well, but again, they've got the class. They're here for a reason. They've qualified and they've got a great opportunity. These 3 clubs finished 2nd, 3rd, and 4th respectively in the 2020 CONCACAF Flow Caribbean Club Championship.
Exactly. So we've seen how these teams have been able to perform. So overall, I mean, like I said, it's a bit of a toss-up, but you start looking at the teams. Who do you think comes in as one of the favorites?
Saprissa, absolutely, and especially because they ended their international drought. Coming into the 2019 edition, this is a team whose background, their coach, Walter Centeno, he's led by example as a player. He's now doing it as the head coach. They needed that momentum at the international level. Domestically started to get back on track. They finally do that. They break their drought. They get the victory over Motagua. Motagua is still one of those teams that has to be talked about as well. I mean, right there, back-to-back finalists. Defensively, one of the most stout in the entire competition.
With 22 teams, now we are down to 2, ready for kickoff in the 3rd ever Scotiabank Concacaf League final. Angulo, now wide for Leal. Slips it through, here's Venegas, 1v1! Saprissa off and running in the 2019 CONCACAF League final.
Randall con el centro, el remate. Ramírez quería nuevamente marcar.
Todo queda en puntos, pero pues Motagua le puede cambiar el destino en cualquier momento ya allá en Honduras.
And that's going to do it. Full time. Saprissa 1, Motagua 0.
the second leg from Tegucigalpa in Honduras. Motagua, they have a deficit to overcome against Saprissa in this final. Alvaliz, ball bouncing in behind and scooped up right at Cruz.
Saprissa viene el centro, Rugger que escupe, contrarremate todavía. La pelota quedaba viva en el área chica, Fabián Stay.
It is still Saprissa 1 and Motagua 0 in the aggregate. Montez! Poked over by Cruz. We're a goal away from eruption right now in Tegucigalpa.
Acá la pelota con Bolaños dentro del área. Bolaños el centro, remate travesaño.
Martinez, header, knocked in, but the flag is up. Herrera was offside. An equalizing goal in the 87th minute wiped out. Full time, 2019 Concacaf League champions. Saprissa does enough and ends their 14-year international title drought.
Impresionante los goles y las emociones.
What a great final that was. Dramatic final, I may add. But in previous editions, we've always had the pleasure of having captains of the Scotiabank Concacaf League champions visit us with the beautiful trophy. So, due to public health situation that we live in around the world, at the moment, Michael Barrantes could not travel with the trophy, but he accompanies us virtually from San Jose, Costa Rica, alongside his head coach, Walter Centeno. To add to the list of cast of characters that we have in this draw, they are joined by Gabriela Jimenez. So we'll see exactly what he talks about. So, Kevin, it's interesting to hear what Michael Barrantes is going to have to say in this interview because, of course, the captain always has such an influence.
He's a pretty big name that's, come back, understood what's done of club and country. Actually, I had an interesting comment recently when you dove into what this competition was going to look like, and he said that, they needed to come back. Costa Ricans needed to come back and show the path to the younger players. You're getting that now. And there's big names within this club. And so that gives you an idea of kind of what we were talking about earlier, Juan, where it's getting back on the international stage. And once they've done that, now they've got the recognition. All eyes are going to be on Saprissa, not just to defend, but what sort of product are they going to bring to the field?
There's a lot of expectations, Michael Barrantes is saying, because the coach said, when the referee whistled at the end of the match and we knew that we were champions, it was a huge relief after the title drought. I ended up having a huge hug with Walter Centeno because it was something that cost a lot. It's something that we worked for so hard. And after so many years of not winning a title of that ilk, so that final whistle was kind of like a big burden, a kind of big weight that was taken off our shoulders. What also is more important to notice is that Saprissa, en route to the title, ended up winning all of their home matches. And what Centeno's saying is pretty much we believe in a style of play. We believed in ourselves. It's easy to say that, but another thing is to execute it. But it was sometimes we found ourselves in bad situations, but we were able to overcome them. We were happy, and we were able to be just champs, especially winning at home. But what was important too, it's not just the matches we won on at home. It was the ones that we won on the road. When he lifted the trophy, pretty much what he says is that it meant a lot to him as team captain. Again, reiterating the fact that we haven't lifted a cup up at the international level in over 14 years. So it was the first one as a captain that I lifted. So for me, it's a great opportunity, and I'm blessed that I had that type of situation occur. To be able to share alongside my coach, alongside my teammates in this great institution. It was a very suffered title. It was something that we had to endure a great deal. We were very satisfied over it. So, what are the expectations? We talked about that in just a little while. for Centenos, we have to work hard. Our expectations don't go down just because we can't sit in our laurels. We're not, in a club like Saprissa, you're not allowed to have that luxury. Yeah, the bar never goes down in Saprissa. It's always up. It's always high and going higher. So we have to make the effort to try and repeat, to try and compete, and to try and represent our organization as best as possible. So with that in mind, we see exactly the intentions that they have, and we know that Saprissa, as you mentioned, are going to be one of the teams to watch, but there's also going to be a lot of teams that are going to go after them as they have the bullseye in their back, proverbially speaking. So what other teams do you start looking at in that perspective that could give Saprissa a hard time?
Big names from the same spot. You know, I think you have to look at domestically, Herediano being back in, Alajuelense as well, Olympia always, Motagua throw their name in there. Independiente, the Panamanians. You could just have a fun little conversation there. Bring that trophy back, right?
Yeah,
I had an opportunity to sit next to that beautiful thing before.
I actually got to hold it once when I was in Costa Rica. As we see Matias Tetamanti, we're getting ready, of course, for the moment everybody's waiting for, the draw itself. So we're going to start looking at which matchups are going to start, which ones are going to end up being the main storylines of this tournament, as adding to the list of characters yet again, Matias Tetamanti there, he's joined by Amado Guevara, player we all know very well throughout CONCACAF, spent a good time in Major League Soccer, played in Honduras, played in Costa Rica, played with the Honduran national team. A great resume that he has.
So many of these players, know each other so well. And it doesn't matter if they're friends or not. You know, they've played in so many competitions, club, country, and they meet each other on a regular basis, and you get an opportunity to step in after a storied career, have a little fun with some friends, some time, of course, with Major League Soccer, Team Toronto FC, a legend there in his own right, to be fair. And know that he's moved on, an opportunity now to join us for the draw.
Quite dapper he looks. And we'll see now. We'll start seeing how everything plays out as far as the 22 participants. And it's a privilege for Amado to be a part of this. We're ready to go. We're going to start looking and start filling the spots and start guessing and start supposing and start speculating and all the other questionable things that we can start doing as far as the draw is concerned. The anticipation that it draws based on the matchups that come up. He says Motagua, of course, for him is a sentimental favorite, having played at Motagua. One of several teams that happen to be in this draw that Amado Guevara played for. Played with Marathon, played with Saprissa, played with Motagua, as I mentioned before. Spent some time, brief time with Olympia.
And everybody vying for a spot, of course, one of those top six that does make its way to the Scotiabank Concacaf Champions League. Understand that a lot of the young names, Olympia, Saprissa, Alianza, they're now getting the recognition they deserve at the international level.
We'll start talking a bit about how the draw will work.
El sorteo de la Liga
Concacaf, Scotiabank, the draw for the 2020 Scotiabank Concacaf League, it's going to be a two-part draw. Of course, we're going to get the draw in pot number one with the preliminary draw, and then we go into the round of 16. So for the preliminary round, we have 12 clubs that will be facing off for a chance to advance. So the 6 best qualified clubs will be facing each other in, well, that will be in pot number 1. In pot number 2, the other 6 teams. So we start looking at everyone in pot number 1. We'll start going to A1, progressively A2, A3. So that's exactly what happens. And in the second pot, obviously what happens? Pot B.
You're going to get 1, 2, and you kind of jump back and forth. Pot 1, Alajuelense, Arcaí, the Haitian team, FAS, Independiente, Motagua, and the debutant Municipal Limeño. Pot 2, Antigua, Cibao, Comunicaciones, Forge FC, the Canadian team we mentioned, back-to-back Premier League champions, Managua, and Verdes. once they get through the first 12 teams, which is the preliminary round, and then you meet in pots 3 and 4, you've got the remaining 10 teams that have already set their standards of, okay, you've done your job now, yeah, you have to come join us.
Now, I'll add one little caveat to that. In the preliminary round, 2 teams from the same country can't face each other.
Correct. And remember, it's just the one-offs as well. There's no home and away for the preliminary round or the round of 16. So once you transition into pots 3 and pots 4, you're going to get those clubs. You get Alianza, Herediano, Marathon, Olimpia, San Francisco, Saprissa, Toro, Waterhouse. Pot 4 has 2 clubs in it. Those are the remaining 10 that we talked about. It's the Guatemala Municipal and Nicaraguan Real Esteli. And then the 6th winner of the preliminary round, they all match up against each other. Everything's redrawn. And then that's exactly when you get the run into the play to vie for those final 6 spots.
Yeah, and as we mentioned before, we were explaining the format. That format still in the round of 16 continues to be one-off with a chance to advance into the quarters. That's when we go home and away. So, without further ado, sir, it will be time to start determining the 12 teams, how they will match up in the preliminary round. So, just to review a little bit, in pot number 1, Alajuelense, FAS, Municipal Limeño, Independiente Motagua, and Arcaye. In pot number 2, Verdes, Comunicaciones, Managua, Cibao, Antigua, and Forge FC, as you had mentioned previously, just to reiterate. In pot number 3, Devin, it's Tauro, Olimpia, San Francisco, Marathon, Saprissa, and Herediano, Alianza, and Waterhouse. And finally, in pot number 4,
you finish it off with Municipal and Real Esteli. They join the 6 winners of the preliminary round. And ready? Let's go.
I think we're clear, right?
Yeah, okay, we got it.
All right, just want to make sure. So pot number 1, away we go. Who will be A1?
Veremos quién será el primer club que sale sorteado de esta edición de la Liga Concacaf.
Club Deportivo
FAS,
El Salvador.
The Salvadorian
Esta será
side.
su segunda participación en la Liga Concacaf. En el 2018,
Second
alcanzó el
participation in this tournament after the quarterfinals back at 18.
Liga Deportiva
Alajuelense,
Costa Rica.
back in it. Second time since 2017. That'll be a fun one. 8-2.
A3 now coming up.
Club
It'll be
Deportivo
Municipal Limeño from El Salvador.
salvadoreño estará participando por primera vez en una
Debutants in this tournament as well.
Otro debutante en la Liga Concacaf.
Continue on A4.
Club Atlético Independiente.
Independiente. Independiente has to be one of the favorites coming in here and understanding what they're capable of in competitions past. A lot of respect for Independiente. Superly impressive on the defensive side of the ball.
Quarterfinalists back in 2019. A5, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is.
Arcaye FC de Haití.
Arcaye, another debutant. The Haitian side.
To round out from pot 1, A6.
He didn't mix it, though.
Sí, como tú lo dices. FC Motagua.
Motagua. FC Motagua, the Honduran Giants. Remember, back-to-back finalists in 2018 and 2019.
So now we move over to pot number 2. I mean, you start looking at what the pots consist of and some interesting matchups that could come through. We'll start finding out. The first one, Managua and FAS. The runner-up in the Nicaraguan League, one of the few leagues that remained playing throughout the stoppage that we had worldwide. Nicaragua was one of them.
B2.
Veremos quién jugará contra la Liga Deportiva Alajuelense.
We'll challenge Alajuelense.
Cibao FC de República Dominicana.
Cibao, one of the teams that we talked about coming in. Dominican Republic squad with high aspirations. Nice to see them back at the international level. That'll be a difficult matchup for them.
Difficult matchup, absolutely. And Of course, they're one of the teams that are the standard bearers in Dominican Republic as far as helping the growth of the game, both at the club and national team level. Forge FC against Municipal Limeño. The back-to-back Canadian Premier League champs heading over to play Municipal Limeño.
It's going to be a rough travel for them, but that's definitely a game that they can win back in B4 to take on Independiente.
Antigua
de Guatemala. Antigua, the Guatemalan club, makes their way into the competition. That'll be a fun matchup, Independiente and Antigua.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. So now Arcaye, who will play them? The Verdes FC.
de Belice.
The Belize side are the champs, and then, of course, another matchup of debutants there in A5 and B5. And finally...
Think about this. Imagine B6. Look at the matchup you're going to get here, which is the only remaining team, Comunicaciones and Motagua, two massive teams that have done wondrous things for the competition. Remember, Motagua actually stunned Atlanta United in the first round of the Concacaf Champions League. Comunicaciones did the same thing to Club America.
Yeah. So you see right there the matchups. As you mentioned, the tastiest tie of all, Motagua Comunicaciones. Not saying that the other ones aren't, it's just that that's the one that kind of attracts all the spotlight. So now, as Amado always says, he agrees with us saying that that is the matchup. And those 12 teams will find each other one off, as we mentioned, and the winner of those encounters ends up advancing into the round of 16. So we'll see how now everything plays out in that round of 16. Saprissa,
Costa Rica.
So the defending champs come out of the gate. We'll see how they end up playing out, but
A2 jump their name in after Saprissa steps aside. The Costa Rican Giants.
Club Deportivo
Marathon. Another Honduran squad that has done well for themselves. Move their way out of the preliminary round and will await their fate.
Also with Saprissa, they end up being one goal shy of eliminating Montreal Impact in the early stages of the Champions League.
Tauro FC de Panamá.
Tauro, third participation in this tournament. Got to the semifinals on one occasion.
Still some massive names, Juan, that were waiting to be pulled out. Of course, the 8 that will await some of the preliminary round. Waterhouse
FC de Jamaica.
The Jamaican squad, much like any other of the predecessors coming out of Jamaica, loads of talent, super athletic, high-paced.
And we're the quarterfinalists in the last edition of this tournament.
Alianza
FC de El Salvador. At A5.
Ha participado en 2 ediciones de la Liga CONCACAF. En el 2019 tuvo su mejor actuación alcanzando las semifinales de la competencia.
Just 3 remaining. You've still got Heredianos in there, of course. Olimpia, they can pull their name out for A6. Who will it be?
Club Deportivo Olimpia.
It is in fact Olimpia. Nice to see the Hondurans back at it. You know, Olimpia, another one, you asked me earlier, favorites. Olimpia have to be right in there with it, especially because Comunicaciones and Motagua, one of them is going to eliminate each other.
Yeah. The 2017, the maiden voyage of this tournament ends up being the champion, San Francisco of Panama. Second participation. And finally,
last but not least, the only one left, I'll give you a choice. Herediano, there they are. Herediano, a team that has definitely turned heads in past.
Yeah, and
to the final in 18.
18, that was their first. That was, I mean, ironically, that's one of the teams that their first international title happened to be the CONCACAF League.
You could argue that their environment may be one of the most hostile for their stadium that they're hosting in the entire CONCACAF region.
CSD Municipal de Guatemala.
Interesting matchup there.
Primera participación en la Liga
Saprissa
CONCACAF para los
Municipal.
campeones de la CONCACAF en el 1974.
Just don't tell that to the Saprissa fans.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Just wanted to warn you.
It's a difficult place to host for sure. And B2 to face Marathon.
Ganador,
the winner,
RP4.
Sería el Club Atlético Independiente o Antigua se
Group
estarían
4 winner.
enfrentando a Maratón en los
So it'd
octavos
be
de final.
Independiente Antigua.
A ver quién se estaría enfrentando al Club Tauro de Panamá.
Ganador RP3.
Municipal Limeño o Forge.
That would be
estarían enfrentando
Municipal
a Tauro
Limeño or
en los
Forge
octavos de
FC.
That Forge Taro matchup could be interesting.
Yeah.
And now for,
final. Quién se
of
estaría
course,
enfrentando al
Waterhouse,
FC de
the
Jamaica.
Jamaican club. Who will they face? Group 5, little switch up here.
RP5.
Arcaye and
sería
Verdes.
Arcaye o Verdes FC, quienes estarían enfrentando al equipo jamaiquino, Waterhouse FC. Continuamos.
Next one, who will play Alianza?
Veremos quién se estaría enfrentando
So
a
it'll
la
be
Alianza del
either
Salvador
1, 2, or 6.
en la ronda de octavos de final.
Now this would be cracking if it were A6.
Ganador RP6.
En este caso sería Motagua.
You call
o
that matchup.
Comunicaciones.
That's a nice one.
Estaría enfrentando a la Alianza.
It was plain luck. It wasn't. Don't
Una
start.
ahí de octavos de
You know,
final.
that was just plain
Muy
luck.
buenos
But that
equipos.
is going to be a very good matchup.
Veremos quién se estaría enfrentando a
So
Olimpia.
either it's
Honduras.
1 or 2 for
Ganador RP1.
En este
Olimpia.
caso sería el Club FAS o Managua FC de Nicaragua. Se estarían
Managua and
enfrentando
Olympia
al
could be an
Olimpia.
interesting matchup. Of course, FAS, one of the teams coming back in, the El Salvadorian squad. FAS, one of the only 3 teams who had never been relegated from their domestic level.
Ganador RP2.
And then
San
Alajuelense
Francisco se estaría
Cibao against San
enfrentando al ganador
Francisco.
de la Liga Deportiva Alajuelense o Cibao FC en la ronda de octavos de final.
I'll give you a guess on the final one.
Aquí nos habría-
Man,
Estelí.
multiple choice?
There you go. See if you can figure this one out.
Okay,
Just circle the right bubble on the Scantron.
Asimismo, Real Estelí
Real
FC
Estelí.
de Nicaragua.
Efectivamente, será la tercera
Give 'em a bit of time.
participación para los actuales campeones de la primera división de Nicaragua. Amado, ¿qué
That's
te
good.
parece si
That
repasamos
could
los
be a
octavos de
surprising
final de la
matchup there.
competencia de esta edición?
Herediano and
Tenemos
Real
a
Estelí,
Saprissa
a team that
enfrentando a
is
Municipal,
that
a
has shown
Maratón
their
enfrentando al ganador
they've represented
entre Club
Nicaraguan
Atlético
football very well
Independiente y
against
Antigua.
Herediano.
A
That could
Tauro
be a
de
surprising
Panamá,
one, but we see right there the
ganador
matchups.
de Municipal
There's some
Limeño o
interesting
Forge FC.
things that could develop out of this
Luego
tournament.
For
Waterhouse
sure, and
FC
it all comes down, of
enfrentando al
course, what
ganador
goes
de
on
la
in the
preliminar
preliminary round. The big
cinco,
one
en
for
este
me,
caso sería
as I mentioned to you
Arcaye
before,
Verdes
is
FC.
the matchup with
Luego Alianza se
Comunicaciones
estaría enfrentando
and Motagua,
al ganador de
because
la
not
ronda
only are they
preliminar
2 storied
seis,
teams,
en este caso sería
because of the
Motagua
knockout format that we have this year and the way that everything plays out, they're not going to get the opportunity to both advance. So one of the giants that made names for themselves, not only in the CONCACAF League, but in the Scotiabank Concacaf Champions League, they're going to exit. So we're not going to have one of those champions, if you will. I like the Municipal Saprissa matchup. That's going to be a fun one.
I think it's pretty even.
Sobre todo,
and-
pues, por el formato, ¿no?
The
Donde
format is what's going to give it that little bit of spice. It's going to be, you have a very small margin of error, especially when you talk about those big matchups.
Also understand that even though you're getting a home game, due to all the variables that are at play right now globally, it's not exactly like you're going to be packing the stadium full of fans. We don't know at this point in time anyway.
And we don't know if there will be any fans in certain situations
So
because
you have no clue at all. And you know, we've seen games past where fans have been restricted from entering the grounds. The momentum has totally swung to the visiting squad, so you have to bring that into play when you're facing these draws. And you understand that. Now still, you have to look at the big names. You look at the Saprissas, the Olympias, Motaguas. Of course, teams like that, they're storied traditions for a reason, and they've got momentum on their sides. They've kept their core group of players. But it isn't exactly going to be as simplistic as we think.
No, and it's, I mean, the way things have played out, I really believe that This tournament is going to have a great deal of excitement from beginning to end. We could be surprised with certain matchups that we might not underestimate, but we might not have on the radar as much as the ones we've mentioned previously. But you can make sure that you can watch all of the action, both the United States on TUDN, and in the Caribbean, it will be on ESPN Central America. Thank you so much for watching, Devin. It's been a pleasure. I'm Juan Arango. Ciao.